You're listening to the Platte River Bard.
We'll talk about it
Okay,
some other time.
recording. And Justin Parsley, Jessica Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sure, everything. Well, Cabin by Jordan.
Justin
Very
is a
good. 16th to the
returnee.
31st.
Yes.
Very good. All right.
Through the second or the first,
first
of
of
February. It's the
February.
last show.
Oh, the first February is the very last show.
Oh.
Oh, that's because that's the Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and your Sunday's your last one?
Yeah.
Oh, and I looked at the
It throws it off.
February.
We like to psych them out.
You're like January 16th through
Come
31st
into
plus February 1st.
Plus February 1st.
All right.
Or potentially more if we
Are we
sell
good?
out, depending on how well we sell.
I think so.
Okay, we're good.
All right.
All right.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Hello, and welcome to the Platte River Bard. This is Chris Berger,
And I'm Sherry Berger.
and we are here at Snap at the Ghostlight Theaters once again, and we are talking to Jessica Johnson. Finally! I've
so
managed to
excited.
miss you for like 3-4 years of all the productions. I'm talking to people in your productions,
Yes.
but never you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having
so
me.
nice to have you. And returning in our center square today is Justin Parsley.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
We're here at Snap here at the Ghostlight Theater, and you guys are currently in rehearsal for Log Cabin by Jordan Harrison. That starts January 16th and runs through the 1st of February
At Snap.
at Snap.
Snappy.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining
The
us
snappy
today here in our little closet.
Thank
It's
you.
very cozy,
I know, it's nice, isn't it? It's quiet, which is what we like.
much like you would find at a log cabin. So
There you go.
Yes, indeed.
I guess the
And
set is underway since we're not there. So
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
set is underway.
Yep.
yes,
Yes.
and it looks like it. Every time I come in here and look at the set, it's like it's a different
I know,
space.
I know.
Yeah.
I know it's amazing. It's
I-
amazing what they
A
do.
big
Yeah.
shout out to
Yeah.
Dale.
Dale
Yeah,
and
Armstrong.
John.
always.
Does amazing work.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I'm always impressed by everything that
Yeah.
they do here. Looking forward to this. This is one of the ones that I actually read some of. Read through some of. I was really fascinated by the subject matter of this because I was like, oh, hey, that's something that you don't see. Please, non-spoilery sort of
Yeah.
overview,
Yeah,
Overview. Yeah.
if
You're
you
the-
will.
you're the director.
I know.
So yeah, it's
Would you
kind of
like to know?
complex to give like a good summary, but I would
Okay.
say what I've been telling people generally is it's about centers around 6 people total. 2 of them are a lesbian married couple, 2 of them are a gay married couple, and the other 2 are reintroduced into the lives of these characters. So the 2 main, the gay couple, Ezra is one of them, and he reunites with an old high school friend, and this friend has since transitioned, and they talk about it being Helen to Henry, and so now
Okay.
Ezra is kind of living with this idea of like, I knew this person before, kind of grieving that loss in a way, but more than anything, it brings out some of these unspoken thoughts that I think they've had for a while, and
Okay.
because it's in their face now, it really forces them to confront their own biases, and kind of when you look at like advertising for the show or like synopsises of the show, it always talks about the question that is asked is, where is the breakdown of empathy once we feel we have our rights secured? So it's set in 2012, post marriage equality, up to 2017. A lot of new queer theater seems to be in that time zone.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah, but it's a really interesting piece about, like, I think really highlighting that this fight for equality and human rights is never over, and
No.
just because this new population of people that you might not understand actually exists and probably has existed for a long time.
Of course.
Yeah.
We're just now noticing.
You're now noticing it more, and so I think that during that time, you either have to choose to dig your feet in and stand with your opinion on what you think, or expose yourself, get knowledgeable, be adaptive. It's nobody's perfect at it, and language is constantly evolving. So just be open, and I think that this play in particular does a really good job of exploring that, and it is kind of like a niche thing. Talking about a queer population amongst each other, but really a lot of the themes that come out are very universal, and
I would say
It's a fascinating topic, and one that I was unexpected when I was reading the synopsis, and then I started to read it. I was like, oh, and I haven't read that many plays, but I was like, now here's something I haven't really seen addressed, and it's the gay and the lesbian couple sort of struggling with their old friends who have now transitioned or are transitioning, and everybody just automatically thinks, well, of course they're okay with it, and of course, if that were true, that would be a 5-minute play and no drama.
right.
right.
So there are some feelings about it, and I found that absolutely fascinating, because it's just like, it's not just like a whitewash. It's like, okay, of course they're fine. Anyway, move on. And it's like, well, no, we're all human, and we all have our own crap. That we all got lots of baggage, and the older we get, the bigger the bags.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Yeah, and
That's a great way to put it.
A fascinating topic.
It for sure is.
Not as niche, I don't think. Because, because I think it applies to everybody.
For sure.
I mean, it applies to me, and I'm not gay at all.
Yeah.
But a lot of the similar feelings, right?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because even though the show is very the setting. The social setting is very specific to the LGBTQ plus population.
Yes.
I think the themes of the show really address sort of a universal question, which is, at what point do you really put your money sort of where your mouth is? If you're saying that you are a certain type of person, if you're saying that you believe in certain things and you hold certain values, and then those values are challenged, especially from within your own community, what are you going to do with that? Where do you go with that? What I think is interesting is the play doesn't say there's a right or wrong answer. Right. You follow the arc of these characters who are struggling with that themselves, and you see where they end up. But it's very it's not prescriptive in that way. I think it really you don't know where they're going to go. You don't know if they're going to. How things are going to end up. So
well, and sort of the end of the play isn't sort of a grand pronouncement of this is the way it is. This is not the way it is. They're right. They're wrong. They're which is nice to hear.
Yeah,
good authors always do that.
Yeah, and I think
they leave it to the audience.
Yeah. And I think it also addresses the themes of idealism, and how do you define idealism? And how do you define what your ideal environment will be, or your ideal life will be? And when that's challenged, how do you adapt to it? And I feel like that's very sort of universal. Absolutely. I hate that word because I feel like I feel like it's a very human story. And it is told perhaps from the narrative point of view of a community that people might not be familiar with. But I think that I think people are going to find a lot of themselves in the characters.
For sure.
And their humanity, and so that I think that's very exciting. Yeah.
Now, what? You probably just answered my question, but what attracted you to this? Was it the author himself? Because he's done some other stuff as well.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I wasn't super familiar with Log Cabin in particular. I'd heard of Jordan Harrison.
Yeah.
Marjorie Prime is on Broadway right now.
Yes.
Oh, is it on Broadway now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Omni did it a few years ago.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, we talked.
Dustin,
Yeah, it's got Cynthia Nixon and
Oh, cool.
What's her name? Stubb. This is her last name.
June Squibb.
June Squibb.
June Squibb.
You knew it.
We love June Squibb.
The oldest performer on Broadway. But yeah, I think that when I did a little more research on the actual play, it sparked my interest. Of course, I've done work with Voices in Alliance, and I'm very passionate about queer stories in general. Sure. So I saw a post for the director's spot open up from Snap, and threw my name in the hat because I I love the creativity of theater in general, so anything I can get my hands on, I'm willing to be open to. And so applied and met with Joey, the artistic director, and kind of talked through my vision for like how I read the play, of course, before coming in, and then just kind of talked about like the major themes that really hit me. And yeah, I guess the rest is history now, but this is technically, well, it is my first directing gig.
He's doing so incredible.
Very first
Yes.
time?
Very first, yeah. So I've done like assistant directing. I did the OCP fellowship for the directing fellowship as well. It is definitely a different side, but it's still very fun, and the creativity is pouring off, and I'm honestly so blessed to have this community of not only the actors, of course, because they make a lot easy. Very experienced actors, very good instincts. So a lot of it is just kind of pulling out some of the subtext or really focusing on what we want to highlight during the play. But also everybody else that's been helping out, like with costuming, Sarah Scheides. John Arnsdorf is helping with props and scene dressing, and just the amount of like support from all that has been overwhelming, and I'm very spoiled for this my first venture.
You wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know that this was Justin's first time directing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's a very like calm, stable presence in the room, which is interesting because we're not always calm and stable.
No.
There's a lot of energy that goes on in the room, and he's very good at like allowing the energy to happen and then being like, all right, and now we're steering back to what we need to be doing, which is fantastic. So, but yeah, no, he's very professional. You're great.
Oh, thank you.
So what attracted you to this role then?
Yeah. Well, so I have been wanting to work with Snap for a while. Yes. I have auditioned for things, I've been called back for things, but I hadn't booked anything yet.
I know. We auditioned together for Misery.
I know.
We did a scene together. I know.
Yes, and it was fun. It was fun. But I firmly believe that you book what you're meant to book, and that the story gets told by the people that it's supposed to get told to in the time that it's supposed to get told. So I had been wanting to work with Snap for a while. So I had been, they're always like on the forefront of my like audition radar.
For sure.
And then I was doing Shelter Skelter at Shelter Belt. And Justin was one of the playwrights because it was a series of vignettes. Yeah. And I actually wasn't in Justin's play, but it was so well written. And we met during the staged reading, thing that they had like before auditions, and I was like, oh, he seems really cool. Like I like that guy. And then I found out he was auditioning, or he was directing, and I was like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. So I actually didn't really know a whole lot about the show before I auditioned, but I was like, oh, it's Snap and it's Justin. That's great. Let's do it.
Yeah. No, they make good choices here for stuff.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed everything that they've picked.
And then when I found out a little bit about it, I was like, oh, Jesse Tyler Ferguson was in the and Dolly Wells were in the original cast, and I just thought I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Cool. It would be really cool. So yeah.
Tell us about the other folks you cast. I saw you got old Travis Manley in here.
Travis Manley, yeah.
Doll.
Also another lover of queer theater.
I love Travis. He's the best.
He's fantastic. And obviously the Jesse Tyler Ferguson is kind of the initial person in this role. I definitely not trying to recreate the Broadway cast, but just the energy that
they just
Travis
happen to both
brings
be redheads.
Travis brings a fun
that,
energy to the character, and I'd say Jessica's and Travis's characters are probably the most, I don't know, contentious in a way. They don't always.
So
they rub people the wrong way sometimes.
So Travis plays Ezra, who Justin mentioned, and then I play Jules, who is Ezra's best friend. And so Ezra is one of the spouses in the gay couple, and Jules is one of the spouses in the lesbian couple. Okay.
One of the lines in the play that Pam says, which is who plays Pam would be the
Jules' wife. Yeah, the character. Yeah.
She tells Ezra, "You are a
lot." You are a lot.
You are a lot.
And
love
I think
you, but
that
you are-
pretty
It
sums
is-
it
it's
up
true.
pretty
It's
nicely.
true. Yeah.
But what I think is just so fascinating about both of those characters is they're so real. They're such real humans, you know. And I feel like oftentimes in theater, especially I feel like in sort of, for lack of a better term, like kind of white mainstream theater, if you have a character who is a minority of any kind, they're sort of like elevated to this sort of like ideal of what that character should be.
Yes, you
you know?
see that a lot.
And Jules and Ezra are really not. They're very raw. They're very, you know, ugly. They have like,
Yeah.
you know, they have
Yeah.
faults. They have like things about them that people would look at and go like, oh, I don't know if I like that person.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like they are they're the way that they're just written so well, right? And
that's
that
a
you
great
really
character.
can
Yeah.
can find the humanity in them, and you can see that they do want to be better, right? They want to be able to sort of let go of the things that do hold them back. And I think a lot of what that is sort of these labels or these expectations that they've had from greater society that, oh, you're a member of LGBTQ community, you have to be this way.
Yes, right.
And am I that way or am I not that way? And if I am that way, am I that way the way that you want me to be? Or do I get to decide what that means? And so to me, that's just like it's such an exciting thing to work on as
Yes.
an actor. Like it's so really like,
I love unlikable characters
yeah,
that give you hope.
right.
That
yeah.
you still want to pull for, not just
Yeah.
complete scumbags.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I don't care what happens,
Yeah.
but there's
Yeah.
something in them
Yeah.
that it's like you can tell they're trying to be better,
And I think
but they're struggling with it.
Yeah, and I think at the heart of both of those characters, they are very, very relationship oriented, right?
Okay.
They are very much the two characters that are like, we want to keep our community together. We want our people to be comfortable and safe with each other, whatever that looks like, you know. And I think I think they get there. I mean, you'll have to come to see the show
Yeah.
to decide if you
Yes,
think they
indeed.
get there.
exactly.
But
We've talked
yeah.
about it a lot.
Yeah.
Like, yes, they say some terrible things. They do some terrible things, and it's things that maybe you wouldn't do yourself. But I think watching that whole experience of like recognizing that maybe that's not the right way to say it, or maybe that's not the
Yeah.
right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked really about like,
Yeah.
yes, they are slightly unlikable, but we
Yeah.
want people to like them ultimately.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so really bringing out the humanity, and I think Travis and Jessica in particular have done really well about making them relatable in a way that's not so far-fetched that you're like, I can't see any relation
Yeah.
to these characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Travis is a very hard person not to like. So,
It's true.
like, he's a very, very likable person.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing, I don't think it's too much of a spoiler or a giveaway that Jules, the character of Jules, is actually British. So it's a really, was it a giveaway? Don't
No.
say that. Don't
I'm
put
just
that.
kidding.
Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed.
Totally a
what am I allowed to? What am I allowed to say? But I think it gives an interesting insight into what happens when you are a person who comes in and you believe that you are a member of the community, but you're still kind of an outsider.
Okay.
And then there's some interesting parallels with Henry's character, and that's sort of the same way. And then Chris's character, who's African American, and sort of the same way. So everyone's sort of like,
yeah.
you know, and then what do you do when you are a human and you want to connect with other humans, but you're afraid that there are differences that are going to keep you apart? And how do you sort of, how do you navigate that, and how do you navigate that personally, but then also how do you navigate it with the other people, right? Because at the end, you know, I think at the end of the day, where we come to, I think, is that we're just people. Like, you know, we're just people, and we all want the same thing. We all want love and safety and shelter and like food and, I don't know, maybe a rooftop bar with a grill. If you get there, but it's not necessary. Maybe a mojito or two at some point in time. But really, like, you want your kids to be okay and like all that. Yeah.
You want your children to experience the joys of quince paste.
I do. Well,
That's right.
well, I do. But.
Yeah.
And of course, we are joined by Katt
yes.
Walsh.
We should introduce her.
They got caught in traffic here, but they made it. Yes. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
I know you just got out of crappy traffic. So
Yeah, no, I hit the floor running. I'm ready to go.
that's all right. So let me just ask you real quick: had you had any experience with this play before, or this playwright? What drew you to come audition?
The playwright, yes. I directed a reading of Marjorie Prime, which is by the same author at Omaha Playhouse a long time ago.
Okay.
I don't even remember what year it was. So I already liked the playwright, and I don't know if this is okay to say. I actually didn't audition. I got asked to come into this because another actor that, and again, you tell me what I'm allowed to say and not. Another actor had fallen through, and a friend of a friend told Justin about me, and I read the play and was interested enough that I wanted to come in to talk to Justin about it, and we talked a lot about the character, about my experience as a trans person. I'm not a transmasculine person. I'm specifically a non-binary person.
Okay.
But I'm the type that instead of error 404, gender not found, for me it's more all of the gender. So okay. I have some days where
the gender of the day.
Yes, I have days where it's more transmasculine, and I have a lot of transmasculine friends. Okay. So we talked about that. To be honest, I was a little concerned about my personal appearance.
Okay.
Because I looked at the original cast, and the fellow that plays Henry in the original cast, you look at him and that's a man, honey.
Okay.
And I do not look that butch. I can put on facial hair, but I'm short. I'm kind of slight.
Fair enough.
But we talked about it, and I thought about it for a day or two, and I eventually came to the conclusion, you know what, I think I would like to do this. I like the play, and I knew some of the other people that you had gotten to cast, and I thought it would be a good experience. And I'm always jumping at a chance to do any kind of work that will bring trans experience to a highlight. This is actually I think I've played the full gamut now from cis to trans.
Have you?
Of the non-binary shade, of the femme shade, of the transmasculine shade.
Okay.
I think this is the only one that I haven't specifically played.
Typecasting.
For the last several years, yes. Because I got really lucky with Bridget St. Bridget because of Murphy Wolfgar. I actually got to play a non-binary character like 2-3 years in a row for, I think, like 5 or 6 shows.
For the
yeah.
Well,
Nice.
for the
Nice.
yeah.
And
At least 3.
yeah,
At
well,
least
and I was kind of playing Evie in the 10th
little,
band as not exactly 100% a girl.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's
But-
kind of exciting to be able to have that range, and
Yeah.
that
True.
is acting, right?
Oh
So
my God, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
exciting that you
Yeah.
get to.
And I'd say,
Do that
just
whole
to speak
range.
from my perspective,
Yeah.
that was a specific play like this. They're very clear about what type of actors they want for,
Yeah.
especially the only ones that really weren't, or were the only ones that were very specific are the Chris character and the Henry character.
Yeah.
And so definitely, like, again, back to being blessed and fortunate, and having connections, I saw a good number of genderqueer actors. Some eventually we started looking at non-actors too. I talked to one of the actors I have worked with in the past, and they were like, man, there's not enough genderqueer actors in Omaha. And it's like, it is true, I think, but it's also like, I think from my perspective, why telling these stories is even that much more important. I think we had people reach out that probably wouldn't have considered reaching out to other theaters or other shows, and I think that is really a testament of not only what Snap is doing here, but what our fellow castmates are doing, not to toot my own horn, but like it was nice having those connections to be able to say, hey, do you know someone that might fit this character? And so, yes, unfortunately we did have we had Henry cast and they had to drop out. But luckily,
there's nothing wrong with calling in somebody that you've been saying, hey, they're good.
Yeah,
you should look at this person.
Yeah,
that's actually a compliment.
And I know. It is. My face is going a little bit red thinking about it.
It's okay. It's okay.
I would say that's also kind of one of the nice things and one of the important things about community is for not just the social emotional reasons, but also for practical reasons.
Right.
Because when you know more people and you know a wider variety of people, chances are you're going to be able to find what you're looking for. Because if you don't know someone, you know someone who knows someone who knows someone.
Yes.
Yeah. And Katt and I had a really good conversation too, because I think initially a little reservation maybe about the lived experience. This Henry character is transmasculine, has been on testosterone for a couple years.
Okay.
And we talked about that kind of lived experience of having that. And so initially, I think when I approached it, I was really looking for that very specific transmasculine actor. And in New York, that's probably not too hard to get. In Omaha, slightly harder.
Right.
But we talked about it, and I ultimately came to the conclusion, just like most people say, gender is a spectrum, and it's something that we've kind of created. And so having that lived experience of being born as a female, but now identifying with all the genders, I think there's still that element of the transness and that same lived experience of being viewed in a way that maybe you don't feel comfortable with. And I think one of the things that this play does a really good job of is talking about identity, and the identity that not only we create for ourselves, but what other people impose upon us.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so
it's funny that you say specifically, it's a spectrum, and feeling, you said something earlier about being part of a community, but then realizing you aren't necessarily viewed as a part of that community. The other thing that I was thinking about that it finally made me say yes was on the not the gender side of things, but the sexuality side of things. I'm a bi/pan person, which part of the reason I say that is because I'm sort of reclaiming the bisexual label, and also it makes people make funny faces when I say I'm a non-binary bisexual. But historically, bisexual people have been excluded from the wider queer community and tend to kind of gather together.
Really?
And you would think that because we kind of know all the way around and are used to not being taken seriously, that we might be more welcome. But that is often not the case. Whether or not people realize it, there is a kind of erasure and bias against and a suspicion of bi people, and I think the same thing is true of trans folks. In theory, do they kind of belong? Yeah, maybe. But then you get people in a room together and you get a little wine and cheese into them, and they say what they're really thinking. And that's not necessarily to say, I don't know if you guys have said yet, these characters are all deeply flawed, or they're all kind of crappy people. But
nobody's perfect here.
Nobody's perfect, and they say a lot of things, that if they were looking at it from the audience's perspective, they might go, oh, actually, that doesn't really put me in a very good light. I don't know that I'm super proud of what I just said there. It felt good in the moment, and it felt like I was, among friends, but So yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting parallel there with you guys, the monosexuals, the lesbians,
The
monosexuals.
monosexuals. Very much
First
so.
time I've encountered that word. That's fantastic.
and then Henry, who I think kind of identified as a lesbian when he was younger, but then realized, oh no, actually, just a whole ass man.
Yeah.
Just a whole ass man who really likes girls.
And I'm not going to give anything away, but
Sure.
Henry and Jules do have a sort of a very significant scene where I think those identities become very clear to both of them in a way that they probably hadn't expected that to happen.
Yeah.
But which has been really. So I will say I was slightly nervous about the idea of working with someone who I didn't know when we had a different actor who was playing Henry.
Okay.
I was excited and I was like ready, but I was like, oh, it's very different territory. And then when I found out that Katt was actually going to be taking on the role, I was like, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be great. 'Cause Katt and I have worked together before, but I actually think this is the most that we've actually worked together. Our characters have actually interacted.
Yeah,
the most.
more-
Like
right.
we've been
More
in
scene
like
work together.
Yeah.
5 or 6 shows
Thereabouts.
thereabouts.
The characters never interacted
But
as much as they have in
They
this.
and they had, but they were always kind of like on the fringes of each other.
Yeah.
And this
Okay.
this one we're
This
we're
is
very close.
we're
Yeah,
we're fighting over our best
we're
friends.
challenging each other's
Yeah.
norms, as
Yeah,
it were.
yeah.
For
So,
sure.
And then I think they come to a very sort of like cohesive place at the end, which is really nice. So
Again,
Yeah.
not in the way you'd expect.
not in the way you'd expect,
No.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
And somebody said something about this earlier, and now I'm just curious, and I'm just saying this. I'm just going to ask this because I'm curious. I was reading some stuff last year, and they said, there's a lot of new queer theater has sort of moved past the AIDS thing, and we're past, and then you mentioned how there's sort of a new sort of favorite time period where it used to be 80s, right?
Right.
And now it's what 2012 to 2016 or something in there.
Yeah. 17.
Why is that? Why
Suddenly more
Yeah.
contemporary?
Yeah, why did everything? There's a shift, and or what? Or,
One of the characters actually
Yeah.
says something specifically about that.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's talking about his father constantly associating gayness with AIDS,
Yes.
and like a very specific public figure at the time. With it when it was revealed that he
yes.
was suffering from HIV.
Oh yes.
I think there had been some very significant legislation that happened nationally in the early 2000s that I think, and we talk about that,
Yeah.
a lot. That's one of the themes of the show is marriage equality.
Okay.
And I think that has been something that has brought queerness into sort of the storytelling light differently than before, because that was something that queer people did not have that was equitable to straight people. So
And it wasn't quite into the 2000s. It was just before, but the television series Pose,
Yeah.
specifically
Right.
Oh.
bringing
Right.
trans people into and like the lived experience, the socioeconomic disparity and precarity
Yeah.
of someone who is someone who is trans, someone who is some shade of queer, having to live on the street, having to find found family. But that was set in like the 90s.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
marriage equality, and now more
Yeah.
things are starting to come around.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say,
Well, and-
not just contemporarily. Or wait, what are you going to say?
Sorry, I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to jump
Go
in.
ahead.
What's interesting about Pose is I feel that Pose is very much a historical piece.
Yeah.
And it's a
Okay.
contemporary piece of storytelling. So it was a show that premiered in, I think, like 2022, 21, 22.
think
But
it's
it's
maybe a little
set
bit earlier
in
than that, but
the in the 80s and 90s.
Very
And I think a
specifically
lot
about
of that history, a lot of that knowledge was kept within the LGBTQ community and specifically like LGBTQ people of color.
Yeah.
And now I feel like they feel that it is time to share that history and to share that story with people, which I think is, and I don't know, there's been a lot of things that have changed since 2008.
A few things.
But in a very, I think that's a very positive trend. You know, people are able to come out and say, like, we are going to be the ones sort of sharing our own history, our own stories. And like I was kind of saying before, you know, we're not just lateral characters in these sort of heteronormative stories. Right? Like Will and Grace is wonderful, and that like was great and wonderful, but it's very heteronormative. And this is a very non-heteronormative story. And I think that's just something that is, I think that's kind of what you're seeing when you talk about queer theater. Is it's more queer normative stories as opposed to heteronormative stories with queer characters.
Well, like with this one, there's nobody straight in the whole show, and it's
there's one person.
I was going to say, Henry's technically speaking, it's never stated for sure that he is exclusively attracted to women. But it's implied. That he is. So technically speaking, there's one.
Technically,
but still definitely more at home. Probably with
the queer community.
With the queer community.
For sure.
And I think
but there isn't like that one, here's the straight guy part to say all those lines.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah, right?
There is no token straight person.
Right.
And I think it's interesting is if you look at any other marginalized community, you know, that when people from marginalized communities start to reclaim their ability to tell their own stories, what usually you are seeing is people who are not part of that community know something about the history that's usually pretty tragic or usually pretty negative. Yeah. And so they like to point to. Yeah, and you kind of sit in that place as a member of that community, and you say, okay, well, this is part of our story that's being told. Yeah. But in conjunction with a larger story that we're sort of only, you know, lateral characters in. And then what's really encouraging to me as a member of several marginalized communities is that you can see people from those communities coming together and saying, now we are going to tell stories that are not just about our tragedies, that are not just about our sorrows, right? Or that are not just about like the sort of, you know, known public events or the known, like, or how we got to put in some sort of equal category with people who are in the majority. But we're going to really like tell our stories. And again, and that's what I think is so wonderful about this play is it really does come back to like they're all people, right? They're just people. I mean, like they think the same things that other people who are not part of the community think, right? And they struggle with it. You know, they confront their own biases. They confront their own...
What's kind of interesting is that I think the audience gets to sort of ask the question, just as the characters are asking themselves, you know, is this something that I really think, or is this something that I'm saying because I want to be accepted by the wider society?
Or because society has always told me this is how I have to think.
This is how you should be.
If I'm going to be a part of this community.
Yeah. Yes.
And is that true or not? And that's what I just think is so lovely to play with.
Poor Ezra.
I know.
Realizing that oh God, did I actually become my father?
That's going back to like what really interested me in this too is like just thinking about it. I'm probably a few life experiences away from being Ezra in a way.
Never.
You know, like,
Never.
So, and that was one of the things I talked about. It's not hard to get into some of that mindset especially if you're like in this case, they're kind of surrounding themselves with similar people. So you do get a little bit of that group think and really Henry challenges that and shows up and is saying these things that you believed are not true.
Right.
You can't tell me what I am.
Yeah.
How I operate in the society, and while still expecting that your life stays unchanged or the society overall is unbothered by you, or you're more palatable than
please be something that we can digest easier.
Absolutely.
Have we talked at all about queer representation, just like in a general way? One of the things that I really like about this play is, similarly as you were saying, that there's more queer theater that's set contemporarily now.
Yes.
Now we also get to have bad representation. Exactly. And I love that.
Well, that's a thing, though.
Like, Queer people have always, maybe not always, but very often for a long time in media associated themselves with the villains because that's what society has.
Right.
And then it was sort of a reclaiming of that is like, yes, no, we love the gay villains. They're fabulously dressed. They know exactly what they want. They know exactly who they are, and nobody can tell them what to do.
Right.
And there's a kind of power in that. And then for such a long time, whether it's because you want to garner sympathy and say, hey, we're people and bad things happen to us. And we want you to feel some sort of empathy for us because these are difficult things that we've had to go through. At a certain point, it starts to get frustrating that that's all people ever see.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, it becomes like, all right, well, now we will have the good representation where, these are fine, upstanding members of society who, never say or do the wrong thing.
Right.
But of course, as
Yeah.
you said, we're all people.
Right.
And
Yes.
sometimes
Yeah.
we just say and do
Yeah,
cruddy things.
they get to be fully human. They don't have
Yeah.
to be characters
Yeah.
or
Well, yes.
I
what would you
think-
say, like archetypes.
Yeah,
Right.
kind of a shift from that tokenism that
Yeah.
people have assigned.
Well,
Yeah.
better character, just better, more realistic, and not necessarily bad representation, which I think is hilarious. But bad representation in the sense that not written by a straight person to put in the show, and it's a bad characterization of one of those people, but written by queer folks in a queer show, and it's like, you know what? I know a guy just like that. I know a girl
Yes.
just like that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put them in this show, and you're going to have to deal with it because that's my friend.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And in places feel like you maybe need a little bit of a shower.
Yeah,
But for good reasons.
but it's only
Yeah.
90
Yeah.
minutes.
But you'll
go
feel
into a shower.
refreshed.
It's an intense 90 minutes.
Intense 90 minutes.
you will also laugh.
Yeah,
You will
there's
also laugh quite a
there's
bit.
a lot of
There's a
comedy.
There's a lot of comedy.
Yeah.
We've talked about Jordan Harrison's kind of traditionally has some sort of sci-fi element to his plays. So Marjorie Prime is like the kind of
Yeah, it's got
a little bit,
little
and
bit.
and this does have
There's
a
some
small element
some
of
kooky-
fun play, I think, with some
reality
with the two
bending
characters.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So some baby characters
Yeah.
that
Well
make
written.
their way into the play.
And if I may, if I may.
Yes,
What
you
I
may.
think, maybe just to build on what Katt is saying, is that to put it in sort of like simpler terms to digest,
Sure.
things have been very binary, and now we are getting to see the spectrum.
Yes.
And I think that's really cool.
Presented by
Presented by people who live
from
in
the community.
spectrum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not by somebody from the outside of the community
Yeah.
trying to understand
Right.
the community,
Right.
which is fine too. There's value in
Sure.
that too.
Yeah. Sure.
But it's nice to have the community
Or
itself
by-
saying, okay, now it's time to tell our stories like this.
Yeah, or by people who are part of the community who don't feel the freedom to fully represent the community.
Yeah.
And feel like they
Okay.
have to portray
They gotta
people,
do-
like they
gotta
have
do
to make the
a
community look
good
good
representation.
because
Right.
otherwise
so they don't
they'll
want to show too much of the, I can't show that.
Yeah.
right, because
Yeah.
otherwise they'll
Otherwise-
lose whatever
otherwise the
sort of social
straights
status.
won't accept
the
us.
straights won't
Right.
accept us.
Or
whoever,
show that we're
right?
human, or yeah.
Or
The-
Republicans
the
won't
the
accept us,
cisheads.
or the
Insert.
cisheads won't accept us, or
Republicans.
the
That
whatever.
ship is
My
sailed.
dad.
That's it.
Well,
Yeah, not my dad personally, but like everyone's archetypal.
all the
father.
dads.
It's true.
My dad with a capital M, capital D.
Little TM.
Little tea.
Indeed.
All right, I think we've taken up the director's
Your rehearsal time.
Yes, your
Yeah, I
rehearsal
think you're
time.
fantastic.
Enough for your rehearsal time.
Yeah,
Thank you, Kat,
appreciate
for
you.
joining us
Yes,
at the
thank
last
you.
minute.
Thanks for letting me
Nice
jump
to
in.
meet you.
Yes, and thank you, Justin.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see this. Log Cabin, by the way, by Jordan Harrison, starts January 16th, runs through February 1st here at Snap, the Ghost Live Theater, baby.
Woohoo.
Thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Break all
Thank
the
you for
Break
having
all the
us.
legs.
Yay. Thank you for listening and supporting the arts in the Platte River area and beyond. Please subscribe to our podcast so you are sure to catch all of our future episodes and join us on social media. See you next time on the Platte River Bard.